Hi, it's Zeke with the Eastside Church of Christ in Baytown, Texas. Thanks for joining us for our Bible reading for the week of July 12th through the 18th, 2020. As we continue reading through Israel's history in the books of Kings and Chronicles, we find that after a united reign of 3 kings over the nation, now comes the sad tale of her division into two kingdoms, 2 distinct kingdoms. The northern kingdom called Israel and the southern kingdom called Judah. And we read about the fact that it came about because of the implementation of bad advice that Solomon's son Rehoboam had gotten from some of his friends. When he assumed the kingship, he had gone to get counsel from some of the wise older men who had served his father and had gotten some good counsel from them, and then he got some advice from his younger, more impetuous friends, and he ended up heeding their advice and alienating 10 of the tribes. He retained control of Judah and Benjamin, while the other 10 tribes deserted him. Sadly, we don't read about his seeking any counsel from God, and maybe if he'd have done that, things would have turned out much differently. Well, because of his harsh words towards the people, based on the bad advice of his young friends, the kingdom split. While he retained control of those 2 tribes in the south, Judah and Benjamin, the other 10 appointed Jeroboam. Remember him? We read about him being Solomon's adversary in 1 Kings chapter 11. Jeroboam assumed kingship of that new northern kingdom of Israel. And so to keep the people from revolting against him, he set up idols in the northern and southern extremities of that territory, appointed religious feast days and even priests in order to accommodate this new apostate religion that he himself was setting up. From here, we begin to read of a succession of kings in the split kingdom, the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel and Judah. And in Judah, the Davidic dynasty was preserved with a mix of good kings and bad kings. But as for the northern kingdom, we're going to see a familiar refrain which describes the disobedience of the nation. We're going to read a sentence again and again and again, describing each successive king. The sentence goes something like this: The king did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and walked in the way of Jeroboam, and in his sin, which he made Israel sin. That northern kingdom ended up having 19 kings, every one of them a stinker, every one of them bad, every one of them apostate. Meanwhile, in Judah, Rehoboam died after serving as king for 17 years, and then his son, Abijam, called Abijah in the Chronicles, succeeded him for 3 years, after which the son of Abijam, Asa, assumed the throne for 41 years. So you've got a period of relatively stable kingship. Well, it wasn't like that in the northern kingdom of Israel. In Israel, there was a rapid turnover of leadership, which represented the anarchy and the chaos that was being experienced, certainly politically and spiritually. In fact, there was even civil war in the northern kingdom. Jeroboam, their first king, had reigned for 22 years, and he was succeeded by his son Nadab, who reigned for 2 years, but that was the end of that dynasty. Nadab was assassinated by Baasha, who reigned for 24 years and then was succeeded by his son Elah, who reigned for 2 years, who was then killed by Zimri, who only ruled 7 days before killing himself and then being succeeded by Omri, who himself ruled for 12 years, being succeeded by his son Ahab, who would rule for 22 years. Got it? Good. There's not going to be a quiz, but that tells you something about the rapid turnover and the quick succession of these apostate kings in the northern kingdom. In 1 Kings 18, we're introduced to the prophet Elijah, who will challenge the wicked prophets of King Ahab to one of the most dramatic contests in history. I invite you to read about that in 1 Kings 18. Meanwhile, our New Testament reading takes us through the letters to Titus, to Philemon, and to Jude. They're all short letters, but they're packed with practical teaching. In our reading in the Psalms, Psalms 47 is a wonderful psalm that extols the supremacy of God, while the famous Psalm 119, the longest psalm, deals with the supremacy and the wonder of God's word itself. It reminds us of its majesty as well as its practicality. Read through Psalm 119, every single verse extolling the wonders and the majesty of God's word. Can you say as much good about God's word as the psalmist did in Psalm 119? Well, thanks for joining us for this week's Bible reading. Hope you'll be back with us again soon. God bless you.